You're listening to another episode of the Midwest Artisan. I'm your host, Andy Hinkle.
And I'm your co-host, Dalton McCleary.
Dalton, how you doing, man?
I'm doing swell now that I have a beautiful fixed microphone. I sound crisp and clear, and I don't sound like I'm in a garbage can. And it's been a week, and we'll get into that a bit later. But I'm here. I'm happy to be here. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. Yeah, when we were on the show last week, and I could hear you through my headphones, you sounded great, because the audio was a little bit better than the actual post edit version. And so when I was editing, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's like it keeps cutting out. We doubled and triple checked. We had the right microphone selected. So Caleb actually the other day Caleb tweeted out something. He recorded an hour. It was like 45 minutes, somewhere around there, of some tutorial, and he's like, gosh dang it, I selected the wrong microphone.
It's rough. Because you slacked me about it and dude, you're going to hate this. And you sent me a clip of it and it sounds like I'm in a garbage can. And you can't just re-record a podcast with all those topics because you can't just fake the same responses and stuff. That's just
just
lame.
Say your voice again. Just repeat your voice.
Just dub me over. Get AI, train it on my voice model. If that ever happens again, you can just have an AI Dalton be your co-host.
Yeah, AI powered podcast
Co-host, easy.
So Israel, Iran attacked Israel this morning, and I don't want to get into politics or news because that's boring, or at least boring content. You could just turn on TV if you want to know what's going on. But I was working with a vendor, and I had no idea he was from Israel, and we were working on just doing a meeting, and he had postponed a couple times, and I was like, okay, we'll just get it on next time. And then he emails me back, and I said, hey, just let me know what time would work best for you. I said noon would be good. He emails me back, well, I'm currently in my bomb shelter with my family. I'm from Israel. I was like, what? I was like, why are you emailing me? Just mind you, so this service that we're talking with, it was for an accessibility widget. So I'm like, don't worry about our accessibility widgets. Protect yourself, take care of your family. We'll meet up later. But thoughts definitely go out to that guy. Can only imagine just what it could be like, because I know I've dropped from work several times between living in Oklahoma and now here in Indiana, oh shoot, we're in a tornado warning, have to go down to the basement, and it is kind of it's not nearly as a bomb shelter you're not in that sense, but I have been through an F5 tornado. I was living in Moore, Oklahoma, not to get too dive off the deep end here, but it sounded like a train was coming
talking
through.
about weather.
Tornadoes.
It's bad.
I'm way too much into weather. So yeah, man. But yeah, that was kind of a crazy start to my day. I'll never forget that email. I immediately got goosebumps. Dude, just take care of yourself.
For real.
That's but
it's least important.
Yeah. Dalton was making fun of my shirt when I got on the show. It's a WWE shirt and it has. Well, I don't know if you're making fun of it.
I am a Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. When it was those two, I was Stone Cold. I was Team Stone Cold.
So for the folks that are listening, I'm wearing a shirt. I went to Wrestlemania this year. One of my friends he's been to the past 5 or 6. He asked me every year to go, and then I was like, okay. He's he kind of guilt tripped me because I just had a child this past year or the year before. He's like your child's here, ready here now. Come with me, please. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I went to WrestleMania in Philly, had a great time, and I'm a huge fan of The Rock, so got his shirt. And so, and actually in my unit test is something I want to talk about. In your unit test, do you ever use what's kind of your thing? I know in Laravel, Taylor uses his kids' names, when you're writing a first name test. I do kind of the same thing for my son's name sometimes, and then or if I don't do it, I'll do The Rock, so it'll be Dwayne Johnson is the name, or The Rock, or be The Rock, or Dwayne at therock.com or something as the email address, or some silly things like that. Do you ever have anything? It's just
I'm not that funny or clever. I just use test. If it asks for a name, I'll do test or Mr. Test or test@test.com. I'm lame when it comes to that, but I think I should start using Stone Cold. I should start using Steve Austin at stonecold.com. just to combat your Dwayne Johnson at therock.com.
You could put the page title as Austin 316 says I'll whip your ass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Every test has 316. 316 fakers getting created.
At Laracon this year, Adam Wathen, he's really big into wrestling, WWE, and he came in with the but anyway, he came into Laracon and he had a Tailwind 316 shirt, but it was themed like Stone Cold's. Did you see that? That was pretty sick.
I don't remember seeing, but I'm going to look it up right now because I'm going to love it.
And then he came into Laracon, like every person when they came on stage, they had a theme song. And he came out to Stone Cold. So he was like, yeah.
My man of
raising
culture.
The middle fingers. Yeah.
Yes, that is the way. Listen, I don't want to derail it on a podcast between The Rock and Stone Cold, but I am 100% team Stone Cold.
Oh, I love Stone Cold too, but yeah, I love The Rock. He's pretty cool. All right, dude. So listen to North Meets South podcast. They had Jason Beggs on there. So it's Jason's first podcast. I poked him. I was like, Jason, you should do some more. He has he has some really good takes of just kind of the things they're doing at Laravel, and the dude is like a Tailwind master. It is the best person I know when someone says they want to work on a Tailwind site and want to be pixel perfect. Like Jason Beggs is your guy. And so I would just like to hear like how he likes to build sites, how the tools he uses, some of the things he's learned over the years, and so it's in podcast form or whatever. But yeah, he was talking about how they do it, the fakes at Laravel, and it's really simple. He messaged me after the show and is like, "Yeah, guys, it's much more simpler than you thought." Which for like a database driver or something, it really is. So he was explaining like for they do like a fake GitHub connection, like you link your GitHub, and then it'll respond with like an array of repositories instead of actually going to GitHub. So it'll just kind of fake out, and it'll notice like you're local or something, and it'll just return. And so instead of actually hitting the GitHub API or something that does take time. At the agency, we just heavily use the HTTP Facade. And that's what kind of Jake was kind of hinting at. And Jake actually, the way that Jake does it is the exact same way that we do it. And it's through the service container. And I think I talked about it on the last show, but it's through the service container. Just does a quick check if it's local. It checks if there is a fake available for that. Or if a mock available for that. And if there is, it'll return that. And if there's not a mock, it actually will hit the API. But recently I did something where I'll just toss an exception. So you can there's 3 points. You can either have it return the fake or have it return to the exception or actually hit the API. So it's getting way too complicated for something that should just be really simple, and that's just faking. So one thing I've been thinking about is writing, I sent this like code snippet, like anytime I think of like what would be the dream scenario or would be the dream like thing if I were to write this, how would I want it to look and feel without just thinking, because I think the reverse of that, I was like, how would I even get to that dream, but I'm just thinking like just at least on the surface, if I wanted to type this out, what would it look like? And what I came up with, I sent it to Jason and I also sent it to Jake, and Jason came back with saying that would be a cool solution. But I writing in code or on a podcast is the worst, a visual concept. But just think that the HTTP Facade, right? And you do like with token, you pass in your token. But then so one of the things I've been thinking about is like a fake win. Instead of just like arrow fake, just doing a fake win, you could do something and then it passes a closure. And then you could do like if it's not in production, or you could, in that case, you can pass a configuration value. And then the next line is the fake of what you would actually want to do. And I was thinking of like the fake win, maybe a second conditional could be the actual fake. I don't know, because the moment you do fake, the code stops and it just pulls that the interface changes into the fake, and so you can't actually even proceed like with a get after that or something like that. But anyway, so I was thinking that would kind of be the dream, but then I'm like, it smells kind of funny, right? Having this fake in your productions alongside your actual other code, just all of a sudden it's like this random fake win, versus being like in a service container or something a little bit more simpler. So I don't know, something to think about.
Yeah, it smells funny. That's my thoughts. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Is it looks? You sent me the code snippet. It looks a lot like you're doing, an eloquent query, right? HTTP with token, arrow function, fake, arrow function get. Yeah, that's where I get it smells a little funky when you have fake testing stuff in wherever you're going to call this API. Like if you're going to send a job to call an API that says, hey, get GitHub repositories. In that job code is going to be this sort of fake line. And that's where it does get a little wacky for me personally. I like that it looks like an eloquent query, like fake win is very similar to the eloquent, win. Like, hey, a conditional run this, subquery or continue with a different query. So yeah, that's probably just my biggest hang up with it. I like the way that it looks because I can read it. That is like, oh, I want to call this API, but I want it to fake the response when it's, not in production, right? App is production is false. So it reads really well. It's just, the mixing of it like inside business logic is what a little smelly for me. I don't really know how to, other than putting in the service provider, I don't really see how it would make me not smell it funky, does that make sense? Not have it smell funky.
Yeah, and those are my thoughts too of like having it alongside the actual code. Just it's kind of weird. It feels like a crime, but yeah, I feel like I just had that feeling like there's something there. I just don't know what it is. I feel like it's almost there, but yeah, the package I was thinking about. We talked briefly about this on the last show, but the wrapping the DTO objects into a fake. So DTOs of like if you have like a GitHub user like API object, it's going to expect the username, the follower count, stuff like that from GitHub. But actually wrapping that up into a DTO. But then when you call it fake, it kind of works with how you type hint it to create that fake object of that array back. So it'll like depending on what you pass to it. So that's kind of where my package mind was going with that of like creating a package that kind of automatically creates those out. But then I was looking into like factories and stuff. I was like, well, factories are kind of close to eloquent, and it would have to be like outside of eloquent or outside the factories. It would just be like a random fake in there. So I was like, maybe package might, I don't know, but it's just every implementation can be different. But I was kind of thinking of the package would be strictly around the HTTP facade. So every app can be different of how they like to fake it. So I don't know.
That's
maybe
a tricky
one day
one.
We'll find it.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I don't know if you're going to get a 100% like the perfect solution.
I don't think I will.
But there has to be something along those lines.
Yeah,
I think there's something there.
Yeah, I like the solution I have now. I don't think I would change it in the code base. Like honestly, if I wrote this, I probably wouldn't change it in the code base. That's the thing. I think that's kind of the thing that's keeping me away. Of even going further on this is my idea or what I think would be a better implementation would actually implement that, and the answer is no. And until I start to really think about making that transition. So.
Yeah, fair point. It's sticky for sure. That's a sticky one. Mm-hmm. Before I keep talking about sticky things, I think we should transition to something else like CMSs, because I have a few opinions on CMSs. You have some opinions on CMSs, and there was mostly technical podcast that was just released about CMSs. And let's talk
From
about
sticky to static.
Yeah, that's why you're the perfect host.
I listened to that with Jack Bedade and the crew he had. We kind of had a hodgepodge of people coming in and out. It's just like Caleb came in with kind of the swing of the opinions and all the things I agreed with in Caleb's court. But I also wanted to talk about this, and because one thing I found interesting, they asked, who is Jack's target audience? And he said that would be like agencies, people building a lot of sites. And that's what we do. We build many sites, many different types of applications, from static websites to full SaaS applications to iOS apps that have like a Laravel API in the backend. So it's very diverse, wide variety, and we also use many different CMSs. Mm-hmm. And so my mind of like we have one site, just one on Statamic, and it was kind of a trial to see if it would work. And the reason we chose Statamic for this site is they're very big about SEO. That they're very hard on us about like whatever we decide, what we think that would be a great fit for their SEO campaigns. And that's where we went more of a flat file, static, very quick, very, very fast, and to where it's practically once it hits the server, it's just loading an HTML file. So like the name suggests, it's static. There's no API integrations. We don't have anything going crazy. Like we're not checking the status of a shopping cart or checking the status of the current authenticated user. All of the stuff that can drive out performance. The top thing was just driving site performance, how fast we can get the site to load, and which in retrospect also increases your SEO score depending on how you're targeting. And actually their traffic did pick up it was a good margin. It was like 300% in the course of 12 months.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really good margin. I was thinking you're going to say like 20%, 300%.
Yeah,
that's a boom.
And a lot of that I feel like was from the efforts that we did with Statamic, but the developer experience on that was good. It's better than WordPress by far. I've developed probably. I would say I'm close to 100 WordPress sites, if not like over my lifetime I've been through the ringer of WordPress. I'm happy to work in WordPress. It's not my favorite. I think when we first started this show, we talked about how we're never even going to mention WordPress. I feel like every show it comes up.
They're in the news. They're in the news today. We'll get to that a bit later too.
But with Statamic, by far an upgrade from WordPress, very rich in the data, and
for sure
so we work with, my biggest problem I've had with Statamic is that when we have multiple teams working on it. So we're an agency here, but we have an SEO agency somewhere else, and then we might have different aggregates of like someone else might be a content team. This is all by the company that hired us. So we're doing the development, someone else is doing the SEO efforts, etc. So these companies, they're like, hey, we know WordPress. Occasionally we'll get one like, oh yeah, we know Statamic, we love it. But then some other ones are like, oh, what's Statamic? And they want to incorporate some type of like a sharing feature, which no one uses these days. You click a button to share it on a social media. At least, I don't know. Every analytics I put on that, it does not get hit. But anyway, but they wanted that. They wanted some but they're like, we could just go to the plugin store on WordPress and install this. I'm like, guys, all right. So then I'm like thinking, all right, well, then we have to deal with the opinions of that plugin maintainer of what they thought would be they would be the best. And then also we were using WordPress, which is going to impact your SEO. Like it's going to not be as performance, or it's not going to be better on performance. So it was just kind of hard to get some of these contractors to buy into this that haven't worked in before. And they're just so ingrained in these other ecosystems. They're like, what's Laravel? Just having to explain what Laravel is. And so I think that's where my tough place of like doing that, of setting that up and being excited about it, and then being like, well, I just want to install this plugin that has this share thing. And now they come to us and say, hey, what will it take for you to develop that? Or like, oh, it'll take maybe an hour or two, which is just a couple $100. But then they're like, well, that's crazy. I would just rather buy a plugin that's $5-10 tops. And so these clients and it's not necessarily the clients in these calls just kind of like listen to the one side, listen to the other, and they're they're in the middle of it. And so it's the good old fashioned contractor debate of like which one they prefer. So, and we don't ever want our clients to be in that situation. We want to come in feeling confident about our technical stack of what we picked. And so, it's kind of a tricky situation to be in. I think that experience is just kind of, I just don't want our clients to have to constantly go through that. And I don't know how to get out of that without them being like, oh yeah, Statamic, we know them, And I don't know if that could just be just like a one-off thing. Maybe there's more people that do know about it, or if there's teams that If all we do is strictly work on Statamic and we don't have those contractors that come in and help, that might be. Maybe our team isn't big enough. Maybe his target agency is bigger than our agency because we're only a team of 30 some employees. We don't have
6 devs.
We don't. Yeah, there's actually companies that just as big as us, and not bigger, that strictly do. That's all they do is SEO. So, and those are the type of people that we work with. And so I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking this wrong.
Maybe we're just not the target audience, because the site you're talking about, the one Statamic site we have, I think it's just you and I who's worked on it of the other developers here. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's fine. My opinion of it is it's in a very weird middle ground. Like, there's definitely a niche for like a really good Laravel CMS that's comparable to WordPress. And the problem I think Statamic has is that its marketplace is not as
robust,
crowded is not the word, but there's options for literally everything, and sometimes there's 7 options for the one thing, and that's where I think Statamic fails. I mean, it's no fault to them. Like, it's good. It's better than WordPress. I mean, I'll work in I don't want to name drop another PHP framework, but I'd rather work in other PHP frameworks than WordPress. Anyway, we're talking about Statamic. I want to talk about the WordPress drama. We'll get to that in a minute. But I think that's where it fails the most, is that marketplace. If it's trying to be a good WordPress replacement or like a Laravel version of WordPress, there has to be so many more packages for it. It has to be super easy to install. That's where it gets a little sticky. Mm-hmm. You don't want to do a bunch of custom development for a CMS when somebody like a client's like, oh, I could spend $20 on this WordPress plugin and bing, bang, boom, it's done. It might not be the greatest plugin, and it might be held together by like literally duct tape. Like somebody just slapped a thumb drive into your server, like that level of crap spaghetti code. But it does the thing that it's supposed to do. And that's really hard to build up over time, because WordPress is so old in software development terms. It's old. So it's got a lot of stuff for it. It's kind of like Laravel has a lot of packages for it, makes it really great. And you could really blame Spotty for that, because I think they're like, 50% of all the Laravel packages at this point. They've got like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Shout out Spotty. Spotty. Sorry if I said that wrong. I'm from the Midwest. I'm an Indiana boy. We have dumb sayings. My apologies.
No, yeah. So that's another Midwest saying, like, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, no, yeah. So, with Statamic, when we have our clients that are not technical, they want us to make these decisions about performance. They want us to make these decisions about stack. They don't care. They just want it to be a great experience for their users. They don't want to kind of be drawn into the middle of that. We rescue a lot of WordPress apps, and their old WordPress site was exactly what you're kind of thinking, where you're describing here. And I was kind of telling them, I was like, you guys are kind of leading down this path of going this direction. We originally rescued their site. It was a WordPress site, probably had 30 plugins installed, kind of the same thing, like, oh, a share thing or this and that. And they just install these things. And then they're like, oh, our site is so slow, and it can be easy to fall into that from non-technical people or people that just do content of just click to install a plugin and it works. But yeah, it's like, to get us more on board with Statamic, I think it would just have to be a very straightforward site to where we have total greenfield control over. Because anytime we have other contractors coming in, it's just like they always put question marks around, what's Statamic? Why are we using it? Why aren't we using X CMS? Or, because there's so many of them these days. So, and we use all sorts of different ones. I think the Statamic starting out would be like just having a WordPress importer, and they talked about that on the show, but just like you have your WordPress site, you click it, and it's just like as close as possible to coming up in Statamic. So
that would be huge.
Yeah. But as far as us getting to Byte to do like just about every static content site on it, where it's just like where point shoot CMS. The other thing that at least my experience, I don't know about yours. So Dalton, you deal with a lot more in CMSs than I do, and at the agency. And so every CMS I put together, I'm like, oh, they're going to love this. And then I look at the stats, I look at the analytics, like when they're getting in there, because we log in, we keep track of like if they log in or what they're doing in there for revisions and stuff. They never use it. They send us a message like, hey, we want to tweak this image, or hey, we want to tweak this title. Okay, we'll do it for you. We'll be happy to do that work and support us, and we'll be happy to support you, etc. But it's just like the CMSs that we built, they barely use it, and no matter how much documentation, no matter how many tutorials, either through text or through written documentation or video that we do, it's like they want us to do it. So, and I get that from non-technical people, but yeah, it's difficult, right? So maybe where I'm going is like they have to be technical, and we have to have open greenfield without other contractors, right? So
yeah. So maybe that just goes back to it's more on us, I guess. We have to be better at I guess educating them on this as an option versus something like WordPress. And I was just on Statamic's website, and they have they have a page of Statamic versus WordPress. And it was interesting. The very bottom of it says, it's a table that compares Statamic to WordPress, and there was there was a row that was like, is it perfect? No. And it said no for both. And I think that's the perfect spot. But yeah, to your point, it's just the clients using the CMS almost never happens. So at the agency we work at now, I build CMSs more so for project managers. It's not building a CMS for like super non-technical people, because like some of our project managers can get technical, but like they don't know 700 different things. They've got like 400 different projects they're working on. So I ended up mostly building the CMS and all of the documentation for the project managers. So whenever a client goes, hey, can we update this page, instead of them doing it, which they have the option to, they just for whatever reason refuse to or don't want to or whatever, they'll send it to us like, hey, update this page. And instead of the project manager just immediately handing it to me, that project manager can just go in and make the change themselves, and it never really hits my plate. So I've been building a lot more CMSs for project managers than I have for clients, non-technical people, even though it does support that, and I write quite a lot of documentation for it. They just, for whatever reason, they just don't want to. They have really strong opinions on what you pick, but then they don't want to use it unless it's WordPress because reasons. I don't understand the reasons. Please tell me. Jack, if you're listening, please tell me the reasons why people pick WordPress. Well, I'll write 700 blog posts about it.
For me, I do have times where I do pick WordPress, and that is if they have a site. No. I have a client site. Well, one that came my way. They are so heavily ingrained into WordPress that it's like hard to get out. I'm talking, they have thousands of blog posts where inside the blog post they have widgets that were like installed from a plugin or embedded images inside there. I'm like, yeah, we're going to stay WordPress just because there's just the migration path for that would take the entire budget of just building the site itself. So I'm like, I gave them the option of like, we either keep it in WordPress and just update it. And if I have to work in WordPress these days, which we'll talk about with WpEngine, like if I have to work in WordPress, I typically reach for something like Roots, and it's like a different packages for WordPress. One of them is called Bedrock, and it's like it allows you to use Composer with WordPress. That's kind of my thing I like to reach for. But then on the flip side, WpEngine doesn't support it. So darn WpEngine. So like with all the WordPress drama going on, and just like, maybe something good might come out of this. Maybe they might support Bedrock. Maybe they support some of these. But Bedrock, one of the other thing they have is a theme. Like you can install a theme on it. It's called Sage, and you can use Blade in WordPress. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Can you imagine? So then I'm like, okay, I can do WordPress. So if I have a site like that where I have thousands of posts I have to support with this, and I'll be happy to do it in that. But then we are partnered with WpEngine, unfortunately. So
you said a naughty word. Naughty word.
And so I don't want to get too much in, or like everyone's hashed that out, the WordPress and WpEngine, but I'm kind of curious, like, from our agency space, like we've been monitoring this very closely, and I just left for work, and I was being solo dad. My wife had to work late one night. She had to work late one night, and and then all of a sudden I get all these messages on my phone, like about one of our biggest sites, their assets are down. And then their WpEngine customer. This was all the same night that they pulled the plug on the update store, and I'm positive WpEngine changed something in their SSL or something like that, but they unplugged it from our CDN connection, and so all of our assets went down. I think it was something when they're trying to like figure out how to fix the plugin update. But so we had a site down for probably like a good hour and a half of just trying to fix the images, and I ended up just using it's just some reconfiguring some settings with the SSL to not use WpEngine, and it came back online. But it was just like weird stuff. I'm like, what is happening? And so then of course we get an email from the clients, all like worked up. They're about like, should we be like having conversations of moving away from WpEngine? Or like, well, I don't think so. We'll kind of continue to monitor it. They're the leading one. They're the biggest host that, and so I'm like, but then my mind goes like, man, that would be great to like have like a good old host where you just get a server rack and you can just throw, Sage at it or Bedrock with WordPress if I had to work in WordPress. So yeah, I'm kind of curious. Have you been following this drama at all? The dude what's his name? I forgot. Matt. Yeah, it's just some of his takes. I'm like, dude, you're just asking to get sued.
Yeah. For sure. Like, yeah. Like if Taylor Otwell went nuclear with Laravel, I don't think it would be comparable to Matt's version of going nuclear with WordPress, if that makes sense. Like, since WordPress is so big, it's so much of the web is built with WordPress, that this dude saying, hey, WordPress engine can't update their plugins. I mean, WordPress engine has like what, millions of people? Like, that's millions of sites just tossed to the wind. Can't update it because I want more money or something like that. He's I saw somebody say it was like an Elon Musk level meltdown, when he bought Twitter and X, whatever it's called now. And it he tanked it. This is basically what this guy's doing to WordPress. And so just for Statamic, I think there's great opportunity. If there's a great Statamic to WordPress migrator and you have good WordPress options, there's a little wiggle room there for Statamic.
Somebody tweeted on Google keywords, the key phrase for WordPress alternative like shot up. It was some crazy percentage, but like, shot way up because people are looking for different alternatives now. So it's kind of, which that brings me to like, there's probably gonna be some lawsuit out of this because people are like looking at other places, and some of the WordPress developers, like I've seen some of the Laravel developers come out there and say, oh, I'm so thankful. And then they'll like reply to them and say like, oh, you're next, or like talking about the investment money. I'm just like,
Laravel.
Yeah, Laravel. It's just like, because taking VC money can always be scary, but I think it's like I've already talked about how it's a great thing for them. But somebody that can be that controlling in the WordPress system, and I could never see that out of Taylor. Or can you imagine if Taylor did that? It's just no way. Can you imagine if like Node.js just like or npm came out and said, hey guys, we need start paying up, or we're going like npm or to some companies or something. Just crazy stuff. If you want to continue using our packages, we need you to hire some developers to support it, or just nonsense. So
that's just not that's not the right way to do software development. That's just not the right way to do it. It's almost like if AWS found out that Vercel and Laravel Cloud are using their services, and they're like, we're going to cut your account off from AWS services, and if your clients want to use it, they'll have to set it up on AWS themselves. It's something of that nature. Like, I don't know how to do all that stuff. I'm either going to use Laravel Cloud, or I'm not going to mess with any of that stuff because it's way too complicated for me. I'll put it on DigitalOcean where I have control over the server. And I think that's what a lot of people are going to start looking at with WordPress.
Let me tell you.
Sticky.
Don't ever host WordPress on AWS. It's a nightmare. So.
Oh no.
Been down that road. But yeah, man. I hope it cleans up. It's just unfortunate to see that split. And the only thing it hurts, people are trying to get Matt to realize that hurts the most is the developers and the companies. It doesn't hurt WpEngine. Like they're gonna still they're gonna still be rolling in their money. But it really hurts companies and people like me, like where I was flying solo that night and I'm having to feed our 1.5-year-old while trying to get this website back up. And so it's just those are the type of people ends up hurting with the split and a divide between. So I feel like people are asking me, who do you think is wrong? And I feel like both parties are wrong. WpEngine, they're using millions of dollars in compute. They should be supporting either financially or at least some type of way, or have their own mirror for these plugins, for these updates, to where they're not hitting the WordPress organization servers or resources. So they're wrong in that aspect. They have plenty of money to do that. And then on the flip side, Matt is just like he said he's been trying to work with them for a long time, but then he went totally off the deep end there. And I felt like it could have been a slower approach to get there. Subtle steps and not such drastic changes. So
yeah, way too extreme, way too quick. Like just saying, hey, you can't update any plugins as of right now. Like scramble. Like that's not cool. I mean, they did lift it later, and I think they gave it until October 1st. Like, hey, you have until October 1st to figure it out. Yeah, that's better, but yeah, way too much of a hot take. No bueno. Not a fan. So, I'm already not a fan of WordPress, but definitely not a fan.
It kind of solidifies.
The guy behind.
Kind of solidifies the kind of the path, the momentum going forward of why it's like you always had that gut feeling of like you really don't want to have to go to WordPress unless you have to, and now it just kind of even solidifies even further. So yeah, I hate it for them. I hate it for those developers that are really passionate about it, but yeah.
Poor.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it. I just can't imagine, because the guy announced that at WordCamp. Like, and I think we talked about the last show. Just like, can you imagine Taylor just being like, "Yo, guys, pay up. By the way, this company has been, using Laravel for years, and they've made billions of dollars that I haven't made anything. They need to start supporting Laravel." I just can't imagine. And I know it's not I know it can be different versus a developer tool versus actually resourcing you're using, and they're actually costing them money. But
it is. I'll tell you, it is the good thing that came out of this is it's a really good day to be a lawyer specializing in software development.
Yeah, for sure.
You about to make bank. It's a good day to be one of those people.
Yeah,
Too bad we are not that smart.
So you launched a product today, 2 products today, not just one.
I did. Can you see the amount of gray hairs that I have received already in the 7 hours that it's been live? Because I feel like I've aged a decade.
Have you got any sleep?
No. I spent most of last night thinking of, I need to do that first thing in the morning. Oh, you know what? I need to probably reword this really quick because no one's going to understand it. And I actually had notes on my phone. So as I was trying to sleep last night, I pulled up my phone and I'd add a quick note. I'd actually just Slack it to myself. I didn't use notes. I just Slacked it to myself because that's the first thing I pull up when I get to work. And I had a list of probably 4 things. And then I also woke up to a Slack from you because I gave you access. And it also had like 4 or 5 things. I was like, oh my God, why did I announce that I was going to launch this at 8 a.m.? I've got like an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of like stuff I have to get done before I launched it. And it's, listen, I'm glad I did it, but man, is it stressful? And I would be lying to tell you if I wasn't still just jacked nervous.
Yeah.
You ever been so excited and so nervous at the same time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. Do you have
today.
the 3 a.m. thoughts of doing something and you just can't do it. Yeah, or just can't get out of your mind. You have to like put it on paper to just or get the code out. Yeah, I get it, dude.
I hate it. I hate every single time of it because like you get those things of like, I really need this one piece in here. It cannot launch unless this one thing is in here. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that kept me up the most was I need to make a link in the docs to the GitHub repository so people can submit issues. Like I have to have that. It has to be done. And I got up this morning, I was like, no one's probably even going to buy it today or care. So I probably shouldn't even worry about it. And so I didn't. That was like the one thing that kept me up the most. It's like, I need to have some way to like intake issues and bugs. And it's like,
you just have like an email address.
Yeah, that's all I have for now. But I didn't think that was enough, at like midnight last night. I was like, that's not enough. But so yeah, anyway, I've been building 2 products and a company in the last 2 months. So since my birthday at the end of July, like the day after my birthday at the end of July, to now, I've gone from nothing to a full company, LLC, 2 full products released, available for purchase as of today. And I've lost a lot of sleep, but it's fine because it's that weird part where I'm sweaty excited for it, but I'm also really nervous for it. So wow. I'll give you a quick rundown. Mm-hmm. I started a company. It's called Merge Loop, and I've actually bought the t-shirt. This is the one and the one only t-shirt that I have.
I love that logo.
It is really cool.
So for the audio listeners, it's the Merge Loop, but the OO in loop it's connected together to where it looks like a little loop-de-loop. So sick.
Think of it as merge. It's one word, merge loop, and the first word is sort of written in your classic like code editor font. Like it's real nice, it's real sharp, and then the loop part is sort of written in cursive because it's supposed to represent a loop. That makes sense.
Mergeloop.dev.
Yeah, mergeloop.dev. I started that because, I freelanced quite a bit during COVID, so I was working probably 60, 80 hours a week during COVID freelancing, and I liked it a lot, but I was building a lot of these products for a lot of other people. And I don't know, for whatever reason, me turning 30 this year, I was like, I probably should do this myself. Like, why haven't I started this? Why haven't I taken the same amount of time and just put it towards the things that I want to build? So I turned 30, and my goal to myself was I'm going to do it. I'm going to take a little bit of money because it's all bootstrapped, no VC funding, but it took just a little bit of money to sort of pay the bills and then the LLC, trademarks, whatever. It's like, I'm just going to build these products that I've always wanted to build. And the problem is that the products I want to build aren't even the products that I launched today, if that makes sense. Like I was like, I need to build this product, and to build that product, I need this thing. And to build that product, I need this thing. So I had like a tier step ladder of things that I had to build. I was like, God. So I just did those things, and I released them. So we'll get into a little bit more of it in just a minute. But yeah, it's weird to say it out loud that I started a company and fully funded it, and I have like published products, and I paid Google ads, and I have sponsorships and all that stuff.
2 months.
In 2 months.
Crazy. Mm-hmm.
Like literally 2 months, I think, to the day. I think it was August 1st is when I submitted for the LLC, and it's October 1st.
Not just one product, though. 2 products. That's,
two full
packages.
products. So weird to say.
So your products, you built 2 products in there to scratch your own itch, and what it sounds like, what you're describing, it's like to get to the things that you're wanting to build. You mentioned that you want to get to the things that you really want to build, and you're tired of having to have all this craft work. Is that what you're saying?
You can go to RapidSaaS.dev, that's the first one, and then Autoload.dev, that's the second one. And sort of the big itch that I've been trying to scratch, and Andy's been in quite a few of the meetings that I've had with other developers about the sort of end goal idea. Like, I want this idea, but I've got several steps I've got to get to before I make that. And one of the steps was I need an easy way to build a SaaS application in Laravel. And I found that Laravel Spark in my as nice and politically responsible way of saying it was not what I wanted it to be. So I couldn't use that. I actually purchased another competitor's version of a Laravel SaaS starter kit, and I hated almost everything about it. Like it didn't make sense to me, and it wasn't connected to, like, I had to make a bunch of things in a CMS and then have that propagate out to my payment provider instead of what I thought was the correct way of having the payment provider be the single source of truth, have your products, have your prices, your discounts, and you sync it into your application. And it's a mirror instead of your application pushing the data. So I was like, I can't find that. Like, you could use Laravel Cashier, that's fine, but then I have to still build a bunch of payment handlers and webhook handlers, and I've got to build a cart, and I've got to build a checkout flow. And so I was like, I'm just going to build that package for myself, basically. And so that's what RapidSaaS Conduit is. It's a Laravel SaaS starter kit that's built upon Laravel Cashier. So when you install it, we'll handle sort of all of the cruft, like carts, webhook handling, payments, guest accounts. It works with Stripe, Paddle, Lemon Squeezy, all of the, your bog standard payment providers. And it just sort of gets to the point of, like, if you're like me and you just want to build a SaaS product and all you want to do is, I want to boot it up and I'm going to start working on the features of that SaaS product. Like, it needs to do this for this user subscription, needs to do that. Like, I just want to get to that part as fast as possible because it's in my brain and I've got to get it out, if that says anything about my personality. So that's sort of what RapidSaaS Conduit is for. So I want it to be this sort of conduit connection between your payment provider and your Laravel application. See that? Get the name? It's this conduit connection between the two, and it just lets you get to building the stuff. The fun stuff is what I call it. The fun stuff faster, like your application features and whatnot. That one's the one that probably almost killed me between the two. Because being able to support Stripe, Paddle, and Lemon Squeezy was not fun. I actually had to build more packages to make that package so that I can make the other package. And we've talked about it before. I built a package for remote models. That's sort of like, it's an eloquent model that has an API that calls an external data source, caches that data into a SQLite database, and now you can use your eloquent model to query that database. I use that for connecting to Stripe and Paddle and Lemon Squeezy, right? So instead of having products being stored locally and then synced out to the payment provider, I can use a remote model and say, hey, give me all of the prices for, this product, and I could sort of cache it locally for that reason. So I had to build that.
Does that, and it instantiates it, like it like puts it as a collection, right? Like something like sushi, right? So it pulls in. Okay,
exactly like
cool.
sushi.
Yeah,
exactly. So I had to build that in order to get Conduit to work, and then I had to build. I built a couple other open source sort of webhook listener packages, because with Stripe and Paddle, you have to listen to a purchase event in order to create like an order locally. And if you're developing locally, you either have to use ngrok or you have to set up, some sort of exposed tunnel. And now every time I wanted to test the checkout flow, which is quite a lot because I had to support 3 payment providers, I had to do that all the time. Instead of exposing it and then placing that as a webhook inside the payment provider and then keeping that up to date every single time was just a nightmare. So I just wrote a little package to do it for me so I can do all of my testing once, and then I run a command that will basically go back through the history of all the events from my payment provider and run them in order. So I can see that, checkout started, checkout item added, purchase. And it would run those 3 events and those 3 webhook handlers in order. So it's like, I still haven't even reached the idea that I started the company for. It's been 2 months and I've sort of built all of this foundation up for it. And I still haven't even gotten like to the top, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So a lot to unpack here with RapidSaaS. Is it RapidSaaS or Conduit? Or is it RapidSaaS Conduit together?
RapidSaaS Conduit is the official name,
okay.
But you shorten it to Conduit. That's fine.
So it's kind of the target users for that. Is it like solo developers or people wanting to build their SaaS or startups or like a larger business?
Yeah, it's primarily directed towards startups and smaller development teams. If you have a large development team, you're probably going to have some extra stuff you have to integrate with, and it's probably not great for that. But if you're like a startup or a solo developer looking to just build a really quick SaaS, like, oh, I've got an idea that I know is going to make some money, and I need to build it in like a week. Like I have this idea on Monday, I've got to launch by Friday. RapidSaaS Conduit is for that reason. It's meant to be so you could build SaaSes rapidly and have that sort of conduit connection between your payment provider and your Laravel application.
So, yeah, that makes sense. Of like, it reminds me a lot of like Laravel Spark and with Conduit and RapidSaaS. So, what would be some of the differences? I see, like you mentioned, lemon squeezy. What would be some of the difference between the two?
Yeah, so Spark, the big thing for Spark was that they marketed it as it sits next to your application. So you have sort of your application, and then if your user needs to manage their subscription or change their payment method, you essentially redirect them to a Spark created dashboard, and they could do their business there. And it sort of sits right next to your application as like an external page almost. And Spark really is built primarily for like subscriptions. Like you're meant to build a subscription-based SaaS, right, for it. Whereas Conduit also supports carts and one-time checkouts. So while the name is RapidSaaS, you could essentially build an e-commerce website with RapidSaaS Conduit. It even has components for listing out product cards. Like if you have products that aren't subscriptions, you can include one component from RapidSaaS Conduit, and it will list all of your products in a nice little pretty grid with, you know, their little card images and all of their add to cart buttons. Which the other thing with Conduit that Spark doesn't do is you as the developer can customize those product cards. So say I want to have a thumbnail carousel instead of just a static thing, or I want to have a drop-down option for, you know, shirt sizes. You could do that with RapidSaaS Conduit. All you got to do is extend that class and say, hey, I want to make my own markup for it. And every time you use that component, it's going to use it again throughout your application. So it's a little bit more flexible than what Spark is, if that makes sense.
So these are like Blade. So you have like your app Blade, right, and your theme, your files, and all that. And you just drop in a component like from your from Conduit and RapidSaaS that would be like a checkout cart or something, and then it just keeps state and that. So is that supported? Like, is it just Laravel Blade, or do you have like Livewire JavaScript support? Like if for like a cart, for example, because this would be something I'd be curious of. If I put a cart on my website. And does that support if I choose Inertia or if I go over and choose Blade and Livewire? Does it matter?
It is on the roadmap. For now, it's just Blade. I actually had probably half of it working with Livewire. I wanted to support the payment providers first, then sort of the front end optional stuff. Like people can only really choose 3 payment providers for selling software with Laravel. It's those big 3. So yeah, I cut Livewire. I have it probably half done, so it's probably going to be the first big feature release coming soon for Conduit is Livewire support, like a Livewire powered cart, an auto updating cart icon. I've already got a cart icon component, so if it's going to be, I'm trying to take a lot of the fluff out of it. Like I've got a way to see if you have Livewire installed, and if it is installed, then I will use the Livewire version of the cart. I sort of have all of that stuff stubbed out. I think we talked about it on one of these podcasts, that dynamic traits, like how do I dynamically load a trait based on that? Hey-oh, that's RapidSaaS Conduit, because I had to, hey, do you have Laravel Cashier installed? Okay, I want to load that Laravel Cashier trait. Oh, do you have Lemon Squeezy installed? I need to include that trait and not include the Laravel Cashier trait, because they have a lot of the same names. It's not good.
Same interface, right?
Yeah. lot of that stuff. So Livewire is coming soon.
Okay. Yeah,
but
that's nice.
I had to keep some of my hair. And I couldn't do all of it.
Well, just supporting 3 payment providers, a single checkout. That's like a single page. Like for a lot of it is on the Laravel ecosystem is subscription based, but the fact that you can just do like a one-off for like a book or something, I could definitely see that take. So cool. And so the second one you built was just crazy that you built another one. You built. And I'm not sure if you said it yet. But I have it in notes. It's Autoload. So you want to talk about Autoload?
Yeah, and I know we've talked about CMSs a lot, and that's exactly what this package is. It's a it's a Laravel package with a Filament CMS.
Okay.
It's called Autoload. It's autoload.dev, and it is basically a component-based. It's almost like a content block builder page. It's very similar to what I assume most people think of the Gutenberg editor for WordPress is, right? You have got a content block. It's got all of its fields in it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's exactly what Autoload is. It's got pages, menus. It's got little notification bars. You could build nested menus inside of other menus. It's got a global, it's basically just like a global key store. So if I wanted to add in, a company phone number and have that propagate to the header and the footer, and then at the end of every blog, I could put a global setting and say, hey, this is my phone number. And now within my, blade markup, I can say, hey, include this global setting, bing, bang, boom. It's already done. So it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be like a Statamic WordPress alternative, but built with Laravel and Filament.
No, so I don't know if there's one in the Filament space, and so or
not as full-fledged as what this is. I'm aiming to try to cover all of the bases.
If you're going into pages and menus, that's really complex, and so there's a lot to unpack here too.
It's a lot.
And so so when you set this up, do you have to start with your template, or can I do this with an existing Laravel app?
Yeah, great question. Both of them, Autoload and RapidSaaS Conduit, can be installed just in any old Laravel application. It's a simple composer package. You do have to purchase a license in order to install the composer package, but it is just a composer package. You install it, run its migrations, you're good to go. If you ever decide to say, I don't want this anymore, you can composer uninstall, and you'll still have, the data in your database, and you could do with whatever you want. It's not going to be something that's going to have its claws or its hooks into your application as much as something like Spark or alternatives of that nature. It's supposed to be as easy as possible. Like your bog standard, I'm going to install a spotty package. That's the steps you should take to install both of my products.
Nice. So what are some of the thoughts, you mentioned pricing and having a license. What are some of your thoughts behind with pricing with Conduit and Autoload? Do you have them both together? Are they separate? And what was kind of your process there?
Yeah, they are separate licenses, so they are 2 separate purchases. However, they both do work together. You can install them both in the same application and use them hand in hand. Actually, fun fact that both of the marketing sites for these, the autoload.dev and rapidsaas.dev, both of those sites are built with Conduit and Autoload. So if the package ever breaks, the marketing site's going to break, so you can't buy it. So it's a win-win for both of us. So pricing is funny because you never really know that much. You can always, quote unquote, validate your idea. And so basically all I did was I looked at competitors, how they priced their stuff. And I was like, okay, so a reasonable amount is between this range and this range. I'm just going to shoot for the middle. And that's how pricing came out for Conduit, at least. That's the one I know for sure has several competitors. So right now it's $150 per license per project for Conduit. And since Autoload gives you quite a bit more stuff, like you get pages, menus, caching, media library, et cetera, that's a little bit more. I priced that at $250.
Is that for 1 year support, or is that lifetime? How does that
is lifetime.
Lifetime support.
Once you buy it, it's good. The only thing you need to do is if you have multiple projects, 1 license per project is all I ask.
Okay. Cool. So, do you have like a demo or anything?
I have,
because you have your site is built in it, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, when I was looking at other competitors, they were like, "Oh yeah, show me a demo," and you could log into their fake CMS and do fake things. I'm like, that's nice to see what it is, but yeah, I thought I was trying to be more clever about it. I was like, if I just build the site in the thing, the site that's trying to sell you the thing is the demo. Like you can't really get into the back end and stuff, but to make a purchase, to buy RapidSaaS Conduit off of the RapidSaaS Conduit site, you're going to be running through all of the same things that Conduit provides. So your checkout flow, your cart. Once you've purchased the thing, I've got a little guest dashboard you can go back through and see all of your past orders, generate an invoice, et cetera, et cetera. But I do have sort of like a content map, and I have plans to make a very short YouTube series showing sort of the back end things and how to customize them later.
Nice. You know what you should do is for like Autoload, for example, the site that you built, like that's for Autoload, it's built in Autoload. You should do like the login portal, but people can log in and register. They obviously can't edit anything, but they can see how it works. And you can set some Laravel policies up and where it doesn't let them, modify anything. But that would be kind of cool to at least like see for them to like at least see how the website's working. Then like because I think that would be something different. And then to your point of like having the site built in this site is really cool. It's kind of like Laravel Vapor running on Laravel Vapor. So it's just such a cool thing to actually see that. And then, people can go in and start like seeing like, oh, here's how it works, and maybe like a read-only element. So it'd be kind of cool. But I'm really excited for you, man. And so you said you have a roadmap, sort of like an ongoing roadmap. So what's your plans now? Are you just trying to see just trying to get an idea of like see where the market is, and then future enhancements, or what kind of are you thinking?
Yeah, my plan for today, I'm gonna give you a short-term plan and a long-term plan. My plan for today is to get sleep tonight, and I'm not gonna do anything else the rest of the day. But I just released sort of a feature roadmap on both of them. So if you go to the documentation and go down to support feature roadmaps, those are sort of the things that are on my radar that I'm going to try to build next in sort of the highest priority to lowest priority. TBD on when those are going to come out. The thing I'm going to focus on immediately next is that video series and sort of a series of blog posts sort of detailing very small pieces of both RapidSaaS Conduit and Autoload, like how to make a custom field, how to make a custom content block. Like the docs, I wrote the docs, so I'm biased, but I think the docs lay it out pretty well. But you might have, you want to see a real world example. So my sort of next focus is building content around both of the products to showcase them more in a better light. So if that means making a demo and making people able to poke around in Autoload itself, that's kind of clever, but I also don't want them to see my future blog post titles and have it quote unquote leaked, if you think of it that way.
Yeah, I think with policies and stuff like that, you could. Yeah, but that's a lot. That's quite a bit of working through some hoops in Laravel to make that happen. But I see what you're saying too. Yeah, that's
clever. It's very clever. So yeah, right now content focused first, probably for the next few weeks, and then I'm going to start tackling that feature roadmap for both of them. There's 3 or 4 things for each of them that are quite large, and a few things that are pretty easy to knock out and just see how people react. Nobody's bought it yet. But it's also been live for like 6 hours, so I wasn't anticipating, 100 people buying this thing. I'm probably not even expecting people to buy it this week. But
I'm just so happy for you that you got out the door, because it's turned from a side project to a passion project for you. That's like when you get it to launch, because so many people talk about the 10%. You get 90% there, then you have to go through 10% of the marketing, the kind of the things that are kind of boring, and just trying to get out the door. You did it. You got there twice. So it's incredible. And I'm really happy for you. At least you got it out there, and then you can continue to iterate on top of that. And as people provide feedback, it'll be really good. So I'm very excited to hear more about it.
Thanks, man. It's been quite a journey, and I would be lying to say if I didn't think about just pulling the plug this morning. Like, I think like 12 people saw the tweet that I made. It's like, oh, I'm going to launch stuff tomorrow. And I was like, wow, well, if I just don't do it, I'm going to disappoint like 12 people. That's not so bad, right? But I did it anyway because I convinced my CFO, my wife, to basically fund the development of this stuff. So I figured I at least owed somebody something to launch this thing.
And yeah, commit to the bin, and having an accountability partner is just so amazing. Like the things it can do. I feel like that's why you always see when you have a product, you have a co-founder or something that goes along with it, because it's so hard to launch things on your own, and then you're just so ingrained into the product, and then having somebody else see it for the first time, they're like, oh, did you notice that you don't
There's
even
a typo
have this
here.
or that? Yeah,
this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Craziness is what I'll say.
Yeah.
Craziness.
Anything else you wanted to touch on that you wanted to hit on with Conduit, RapidSaaS Autoload, or with your starting of Merge Loop?
Buy a license. Let me know if it sucks. Let me know if it's awesome. Definitely do that. If it sucks, maybe don't let me know. But I've committed to at least a monthly newsletter on Merge Loop. So if you go to mergeloop.dev, you can sign up for that newsletter, and I'm not going to spam you. It's literally once a month, and I usually put a little discounts in there for these products. So if you signed up to the newsletter, there was like 5 of you before that, you got a nice little discount. So let that be a thing. Get you a discount. Andy, you didn't get one because I gave it to you for free because you're my buddy.
I was doing a little. I was your trial user to give you some feedback.
Yeah, you're my beta tester. But subscribe to that newsletter once a month. It's just going to be, hey, new feature updates. This is released. Maybe here's a discount code.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can. There's contact stuff. You can find me on mergeloop.dev.
Yeah, mergeloop.dev, and then autoload.dev, and Conduit at RapidSaaS Conduit at RapidSaaS.dev. So, yeah. Excellent. So, cool, man. Lift off your shoulders and sleep good tonight. That'll be good. So,
I need some sleep. I don't know if it looks like it, but it was a rough afternoon yesterday and a rough morning.
Man, yeah. Launch day is always like that. It's exciting and very stressful.
Yeah, very sweaty.
It's like, very big roller coaster. Yeah, it's just all sorts of emotions. So,
no one tells you how sweaty you're going to be. Let me tell you, sweaty.
All right, man. Anything else to hit? You like to talk about this week?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, you want to wrap the show?
You want me to wrap the show?
Yeah, let's do it. Since you had quite the week, go out the bang. So let's hear it.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening to another episode of The Midwest Artisan with Andy and myself. We'll be back next week for more stuff, and we won't talk about the WordPress drama. Maybe. Who knows?
It's not good content. Yeah, for sure.
All right. See you next week.
Peace.